everyone. Good day. It's me, Makiba, your sister in Christ. So today I just wanted to share something that I've been going through for maybe the past week or so. I've been going through something and I just wanted to share it with someone in hopes that, when I give my testimonies, when I talk about my struggles, I talk about it in hopes that it will be able to help someone. And I wanted to talk about what I went through over, the period of a week where I was just hit with like waves of emotions. But, God is so good. So previous to, before going through this period of trials, God gave me a dream. And when I had the dream, I received the interpretation, basically it meant I was going to go through some form of trials. But in the dream it showed that, I would have overcome it. And I didn't know, because when you receive dreams from God, you don't really know exactly what direction or how this trial is going to come about. Anything you can do is try to root yourself stronger in the Lord, so that whatever is to come your way, you are able to overcome it, and not being easily moved, because you've already rooted yourself within the Lord. So yes, I started to spend more time, focusing on God a lot more. Trials came, and the trial was basically built up of events that I have been, going through, where I was going through a phase where I was trying to help another believer, and I got rejected badly from that believer, because sometimes we care and we love people, but sometimes we try to overly help someone, if that makes sense. And for me, I was trying to really be there for that individual, but it was a form of rejection, because that individual wanted, their space and their time, and it was just me having a lot of concern, having a lot of love in my heart, and just really truly wanted to be there for that person. But unfortunately it didn't work out that way. I got rejected, and it hurt me a lot, because then I started to question myself and asking God, what did I do wrong? What did I do to have, caused that individual to reject me? Maybe I said the wrong thing. I don't know. And a part of receiving that rejection built up a fear in me that also caused me to develop self-condemnation and being of two minds. And when I said being of two minds, meaning I started to question everything that I did. And self-condemnation, meaning I started to carry a lot of guilt, asking myself, am I the problem? And I really started to hold on to this. And the fear from that situation grew. And I thought I had it under control. I really thought I had it under control. And it hurt me a lot, and I cried, and I thought I was over it, and that I had it under control. But then going forward, the fear grew in me. And I know God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. But, the fear was there without me really realizing it, that fear was there. And so going forward, I started to be afraid of telling someone that I don't agree with this decision. I don't agree. I started compromising because of fear that if I'm to tell the person the truth, tell them how I really feel, then they would want to reject me in the same way that I was rejected by the other person. Because part of the rejection was me just basically telling them what I would have noticed and what God would have brought to my attention. Not in a way to condemn them, but in a way to help them to recognize that, okay, you have this about yourself, and you can work on it. God can help you to work on it and to help you to overcome it. Because a lot of times we have things within us sometimes that we ourselves are not really truly able to realize that it's there. But then another believer would pick that up, and it would be God working through that other believer, because we know throughout the history, especially history in the Bible, it shows that God has been working through people. So a lot of time God would work through another believer to let you know, okay, this is what you need to work on. And there are times when God just speaks to you and reveal it to you. This is what you need to work on. But in all of it, it's still God. That's still God still working. And I don't know. But, I got rejected, and it hurts me, and it caused me to be afraid of to really tell a person what I would notice in them or what I would not agree with. So rather, I would try to find a way of compromising, because I didn't want to destroy that unity, destroy that bond that, I've been working so hard for us to achieve, especially when God told us that He wants us to be of one accord, to be in unity. And because of that, I was just, holding all of that in, trying to be strong, trying to be there for everybody, and not basically being there for myself. Trying to be the one that, let me be the punching bag. Let me be the punching bag. Let me take all of the hits, as long as you're okay, as long as you're fine and you're happy. That is what I was doing. I took it really far, where I put myself in a position of becoming a doormat. And I'm not saying that anyone took advantage of me, but it was just a level of me allowing myself to go, to such a low place, where I wasn't even, taking care of myself, but mostly focusing on the well-being of others and how they are emotionally and things like that. And it caused a lot of damages to be placed upon me. And it was just there. But God knows what is in our heart. So even though we think that we're strong enough and able to overcome it, a lot of the times, no. Because we have to release, we have to speak truth. So, part of being of unity and one of God is speaking the truth. And just like what God's word says, that He's looking for true worshipers to worship Him in the spirit and in truth. So a part of pleasing God as well, we have to speak truth. We can't hold those things within us, because then it will cause us, it will definitely cause us to stumble. It will definitely cause some serious repercussions for us. And I still continued with life. I was still continued focusing on God, still ministering to people, sharing the gospel, putting myself out there trying to help others, really not wanting anyone to perish again, just focusing on people, trying to not only focus on my Christian brothers and sisters, but to try to focus on unbelievers as well, to help them to get to know Christ, who God really is, to know that, we're not here to judge them, because we too were living a life of sin. But God has redeemed us and washed us clean with His blood. So now we have been made righteous in His sight. And all He asks is for us to have faith in Him and to live according to His word. And this is what I really wanted to bring to people. And so I went out and, even a part of creating Unveil Covering Ministry, it's to help to open the eyes of the blind. To help wake people up to the truth. And I went out and I started, let me start with the believers first. And I went to this church, And I went to share my testimony because the Bible speaks about that there is going to be that if God did not shorten the time, that even the very elect would be deceived. So there's a great illusion that is coming, but the illusion has already begun. That's the thing. And I wanted to share so many things, what was in the Word, where God would have been warning people of. And I wanted to share my experience and give my testimony and let people know, this is what God has been talking about in His Word. And I wanted to share what part of the illusions are that many will be deceived, because part of these illusions, they are in the church. They're not only out there in the world for the unbelievers, they're there in the church as well. And so that is why I went to share my testimony to help to strengthen the body of Christ, and wanted to strengthen the body of Christ so that they would not get deceived or be caught off guard. And when I went, I got rejected, and that hurt. And again, that placed a lot of guilt upon me and allowed me to start questioning myself. Maybe I shouldn't have gone. Maybe God didn't want me to do this, but I felt strongly in my spirit that this is what God wanted me to do, because God told me He wanted me to expose myself. And I took it hard, and again, I was keeping everything in. I was just holding it in. And the more I received rejection, it is the more I carried guilt. It is the more I started becoming of two minds, just questioning myself, not questioning God, but questioning myself. Maybe, God doesn't want me to do this. And, even though I knew that God wanted me to, because God has given me so many confirmations that this is what He wants. And so it built up in me, and it built up and it built up, and it reached a point where I started to become like a total mess. It was hard for me to live in the spirit. It was like a back and forth between the spirit and the flesh, the spirit and the flesh. And I was going through like waves of emotion, and each wave would be higher than the first. And it was so bad. It caused me to want to shut down, and it wanted me to isolate myself. But again, I had to be strong. I had to, be strong in God. Even though I was weak, I was holding on to God's word, and I said, God, I want to isolate myself, but I know I need to be around other believers, for us to strengthen each other. But God, I know only You are the one that it would be able to help me to get over this. You're the one that would be able to pull me up, because you know my heart. Even in this confusion that I might not really understand what all is happening to me, You know exactly what is going on. And I know You're the one that will be able to pull me out, because You have been the one that has been pulling me out from so many situations. And even though I trusted God, knowing that God would pull me out at His time, and I kept reading His word, praying became difficult because my emotions kept overwhelming me. The only thing I was able to do was just read the word. But then when it came time to fellowship with other believers, I still went and I fellowshiped. I still attended church. I still fellowship, even though I didn't feel like myself. And even though I wanted to isolate myself, I still pushed myself up, because I know I needed that fellowship. I know I needed to be strengthened, because I know if I had completely isolated myself, then the enemy would be able to put more thoughts into my mind and things like that, and I didn't want that. I didn't want it. So I knew when I'm weak, that's when you're most vulnerable to the attacks of the enemy. And because I know that, I didn't want to completely isolate myself, so I made the conscious effort to make sure I go out and fellowship with believers to receive some form of strength, and to wait on God, knowing that God would be the one to pull me out of this. Just trust in Him, praying and everything, continuing my day, and just trusting God. And God is so good. God gave me victory. He gave me victory. It was an overwhelming situation, but I trust God. I knew that He would be able to pull me out of this, and He gave me victory. Again, as I said, God works through people. A lot of the time, God will work through people, and there are times God will just, give you revelation and speak to you directly. But sometimes when you're in such a deep place, it's not all of the time God will speak to you directly. Sometimes He will go through a different channel, because God knows exactly what to do, how to get your attention, and how to pull you out. God knows exactly. God does everything in a way to help us. He knows us more than we know ourselves. So God always knows exactly what to do, how to handle that situation, and how to pull us out. And so, God would have given another believer a revelation on me. And it's so amazing, because I didn't tell this believer exactly what I was going through. I just gave them just a little tip of what I was going through, but I did not open up truly because of the hurt and all the confusion and mess that I was carrying within me. And God brought it to that believer attention that I have self-condemnation and I'm being of two minds. And when this believer told me and explained to me the revelation that God would have given to them, I started to cry. I started to cry and I started to shake. I started to cry and I started to shake so badly. And it was so hard. It was so hard. And I told that believer, give me a second. Let me pull myself together. And then I was able to share with that believer what has been carrying on with me and why God would have told you this, why God would have revealed this to you. And it was so wonderful that moment. At that moment, that very day, God gave me my breakthrough. I felt like a heaviness was lifted off of me, because before, while I was going through that trial, my chest was heavy and it was tight. It was just built up of emotions of guilt and of being of two minds. And God set me free. He knew exactly how to reach me. And like the chains, the shackles was just broken off. I felt this heaviness was just lifted off of me, and I felt free, completely free. I was able to pray, to worship God. I spent an hour and 20 minutes in just praying and just worshiping and thanking God and just crying. I felt free for the very first time in over like almost a week and a half. I was finally able to pray and to truly worship, And it was just so amazing, because while I was going through this, I was still trying to pray, but I couldn't open my lips, couldn't move. I was just praying to God in my heart because of how vulnerable I was and because of how intense the trial was. And I said, God, thank you. Thank you that you're a God that knows what is in a person's heart, because if you didn't know, I would not have been able to explain to you. You know what is in a person's heart, and I'm so grateful that I'm serving a God who will never forsake me. And God knows how to reach us. He knows how to reach us. And we are all so very much important to God. We're so important to God. God knows how to reach us. He knows how to pull us out of whatever state we're in. And I'm just so thankful that I'm serving an awesome God, a God that I can depend upon in my moment of weakness, knowing that God, at His time, He will pull me out. And each time God pulls me out, He always makes me stronger. He always makes me stronger. And I just wanted to share this because I have such joy in my heart. I'm resting in God. I am truly resting in God. When I had that breakthrough, I felt clean, like I was washed clean in His presence. I felt peace, I felt happiness, I felt joy, I felt gratefulness. And God is so amazing. Though many might question Him, God is real. God is real. God is real and He's awesome. He's a mighty God. There is no other God but Him. And I just wanted to share this with you guys. Of the struggles I went through. And God has freed me. He is indeed a mighty God. I hope this video was some form of encouragement to anyone who's going through something. Rest in the Lord. Trust in Him, knowing that He will not forsake you, He will never leave you, He will see you through, and He will pull you out of it at the right time. God bless.